Hi, Tim. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. For those of our viewers that don't know you, I want to introduce you. Today we have Tim Kintz with us, president of the Kintz Group. He's the leading expert on sales and the leadership for car dealerships in the United States and Canada. He is also an author of 2 bestsellers that we had an honor of translating and publishing in Russia. Yes, this was originally Frictionless and Fearless, and this is what they came out to be in Russian. So Tim gave us an opportunity to share this unique knowledge with the Russian automotive community. My name is Sergey Namovsky. I'm also an expert in automotive business, and Tim has graciously agreed to give an exclusive interview to Russian Automotive Dealer Association and share his experience and answer some of our questions. So Tim, we're ready?
Man, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. And let's fire away, man. Let's see what we can, what kind of knowledge we can dig up.
I'm sure you got a lot of it. So first question that I have is sort of unusual. In both of your books, you devote a significant amount of time and attention to your growing up in sports and your coach. So it's interesting to find out what are the character traits that you got from sports. How did your coach influence you, and how does it help you in your automotive career?
You know, I think there's a lot of character traits, right? I think sports, I don't care what the sport is, any competition. You know, I was baseball, basketball, football, could be soccer, hockey, rugby, doesn't matter what it is. I think you learn a lot. And, you know, with kind of narrowing it down, really, I think you learn teamwork is really big, right? In most sports, it's all about the team. And in baseball, I always say that baseball is a team sport played by individuals, right? You keep stats, you have tendencies, probabilities, you know how you're doing in every little area. And it's the little things, and it's being able to pick up your team. It's accountability to the players around you. If you're mailing it in and you're not giving 100%, then your team's going to suffer. And it changes your mentality on big picture stuff. And I think that really helps in the real world when you're in business, especially the car business. Man, it's team, right? We're a team sport played by individuals. You're only as good as each individual putting up their numbers. But if one player lets us down, we don't hit our goals as a team. And it's understanding teamwork. But I think the other part is competition, right? I think looking back for me, I was very competitive, and competition was, man, that kept me going. I wanted to be number one. I wasn't always number one. And when you're number one, you got to bust your ass because somebody's working really hard. Number 2, 3, and 4 is working really hard to become number one. And in sales, it's competitive. I mean, I always tell managers, when you're interviewing somebody, ask them, tell me the last time you were in a competitive situation. And how did you handle it? See, I want competitive people in sales. I want people that want to be number one. Some of the most successful salespeople I've been around, they're not doing it because of the money. They know the money's going to take care of themselves, take care of itself. It's all about them being number one. Money takes care of it. So I think being competitive is critical. I think being resilient is a huge sports attribute. You have to be resilient, man. Things aren't always going to go good. I had a coach, he always told us that he didn't care how we handled success. He said anybody can handle success. It's easy when things go good. It's easy to have a great attitude. It's how do you bounce back from failure? That's what separates the average from the good to the great. And are you resilient? Can you handle adversity when things aren't going the way you want it to go? And face it, when you're selling cars, things aren't always going how we want. It's when the pandemic hit, that we didn't want it. How did we bounce back from it? Were we resilient? Were we able to adapt and adjust, or did we buckle under and just get in a fetal position and hope things got better eventually, or did we make it happen, right? That's kind of a mindset. And I think another trait for athletes is they have very short memories, right? You have a bad play, get over it. That play is over. I got to focus on the next play. And I don't care what it is. If I'm a goalie in hockey, if I just gave up a goal, I got a short memory. I forgot about giving up that goal. I'm focusing on right now, what's in front of me. And really, I think to be a great player and to be great in sales, you have to be competitive, you have to be resilient, and you got to have a short memory. There's a lot of other things we got to do, a lot of skills we got to know, but I think those are 3 traits or characteristics, whatever you want to call it, that really are going to help you in sales. Now, you asked management, right? What are some things my coaches did that made a difference? What were some characteristics in them? And I think the number one thing looking back is they were structured and detailed, right? My best coaches, they were very structured and detailed. We didn't just go out and wing it. We didn't just kind of show up and play the game. It was very structured. We knew what we were going to do. Everybody knew their responsibilities, where they were supposed to go. Everybody knew everybody else's responsibilities. And they focused on the detail, right? It's the little things that get you. Ants bite, elephants don't, right? I live in Texas. We got fire ants. You step on a fire ant hill, it's not good. It's not pretty. They eat you. Elephant's going to walk right by me. But it's the little things that will get you. And that's why I think it's so important to be detail-oriented as a coach and very structured. And at the same time, I think being a motivator is important. As a coach, as a leader, as a manager, as a boss, whatever you want to call them, I think I have to be able to motivate my players. Everybody's not motivated the same way. What motivates you isn't necessarily what motivates me. What motivates Sally isn't what's going to necessarily motivate Johnny. And I have to know what motivates them both internally and what motivates them externally, right? What is that thing that is going to give them the drive to want to succeed? And what is that thing I need to do publicly to pat them on the back, that catch them doing good things that make them feel good, that make them want to keep moving forward, right? Motivation is not just a rah-rah. It's not just throwing $20 bills in the air. Motivation is knowing how to internally and externally motivate your guys. And I think that's all my great coaches and every great manager I know in the dealership. They understand that, understand everybody's different, and how to motivate each one of their players. And then I think really to be great, you have to be firm with what you want done, but fair. All right? This is how we're going to do it. This is our process. This is our procedures. This is our expectations. And be fair and consistent across the board. I can't come in one day and be firm and say this is what we're going to do, but then the next day I let them get away with not doing follow-up, right? So it really comes down to being firm and fair and consistent with any of your processes. So I think for management and leaders in our business and coaching teams, I think it comes down to being structured and detailed. It's being a motivator both internally and externally, and being firm, fair, and consistent. And when you can focus on those areas, that's when you're going to be a great leader. And I understand there's a lot of other things that go into it. And we're looking and say, how am I in each one of those areas?
Tim, quick follow-up question. You mentioned all this. You explained very well. There's no need to follow up on the question itself. It's a great answer. However, the question is, you were in sports. If people were not in sports, can those traits, resilience, competitiveness, short memory, all those traits can be obtained to be a good leader, to be a good salesperson, if you don't have the background in sports?
Yes. If you were in the band, you were competitive. You wanted to be the best guitar player. You wanted to be the best trumpet player. If you were on the debate team, you wanted to be the best debater, right? It was competition. If you didn't make the marching band, you had to be able to bounce back from failure. I think all those, it's being aware, right? It's awareness. What do I need to focus on and be good at? And once I know what it is, then I have to be able to create that. I think competitiveness for a salesperson, maybe you're not competitive. Maybe that's not your nature, but I think you can become competitive. I think you can fight the culture of complacency and strive to be the best you can be, to be competitive. Everybody's not going to be number one. Everybody's not created equal in sales. And you need to figure out how you can be the best that you can be and always pushing to get better. And whether it's these characteristics we just talked about or other characteristics, I think most people can develop them. There's some people that you don't need to be in sales. There's some people, man, if I got people that just aren't competitive, will not be competitive, if they cannot handle failure, then maybe they're misemployed, right? Maybe they need to be doing another job. You know, Jim Collins famously said in the book, Good to Great, that you need to get the right people on the bus, get the wrong people off the bus, get the right people in the right seat, and then figure out where the bus is going. Right. So we got to get the right people on the bus, wrong people off the bus, then get the right people in the right seat, and then we can determine where that bus is going. And I think that's really what it comes down to in all those characteristics. So can it be developed? Yes, in most cases.
That's a great answer. The next question is much closer to the car business. In your first book, you have a sales quadrant technique, which is great. However, it's geared towards the in-showroom interaction with the customer. Now, I think we discussed it with you previously, and there's more and more interaction with the customer online. Can this sales technique, this great sales technique, the sales quadrant technique, be applied to online sales, or that works only when the customer ends up in the showroom?
It's the same principle behind it. Techniques within each one of the quadrants is a little different, but it's still the same principle, right? The sales quadrant, customer is guarded when they show up, then they become open-minded, then they become confident in you, then they trust you, right? And in sales, the ultimate goal is to always get to trust. Right? My job is to get a customer to trust me. I don't care what you do, but trust isn't given, trust is earned. So when I'm dealing with that digital lead, when I have that internet lead coming in and I have digital communication, I got to understand that customer's still guarded, right? They're sending in a blind lead to a dealership they don't know. And how do I lower their guard? How do I let them know that I care about them? They're not just another lead. They're not just another number that comes in on a daily basis. I have to get them to understand that I care about them. That's why I'm a huge believer in with our digital communication in eliminating some of our canned templates that we send out through email and through text. I think it needs to be personal. Customers ask questions, I need to be answering them. I'm a huge believer in video. You send me an inquiry, I'm going to send you a quick 30-second video back saying, "Hey, Sergey, I got your information on the Escalade you were asking about. Great choice. Those are awesome vehicles. Let me tell you a little bit about myself." I introduce myself, lower their guard. Now they become open-minded as I bring them through, right? So I lower their guard. Now I have to create separation, right? That's my presentation demonstration. Once I started the conversation, brought their guard down, now the presentation part is really creating separation. How are you different than everybody else? How do you differentiate you and your dealership from all the other dealerships? And that's your online presentation. And then I think we have to really, in quadrant 3, always remind ourselves to ask for the sale. See, I think it's really easy not to ask for the sale. Oh, they're going to buy. You can't fear or forget to ask the customer to buy, even when you're digitally communicating, right? It's buying science. It's trial closes, some people call them, and it's earning the right to get to that. But we got to slow walk it more. I always talk with internet leads. I call it our elimination rounds. I think in today's world with digital leads and so much commerce happening that way, our elimination rounds, we got 4 rounds. Elimination round number 1 is when they visit your website. Okay, when I go on your website, that's your online showroom. Is it customer friendly? Does it have real up-to-date pictures of the car I'm looking at, or are they just file photos from the factory? Is it easy to navigate? Is there call to actions throughout the website? Right, I go to Amazon. Amazon's got call to actions all the time. Amazon brings the product to me. Most other websites, I have to go look for the product on them. But if it's not easy, if your online showroom isn't up to date, if it's not easy to navigate, if it's not customer friendly and focused, I'm going to eliminate you in round 1. Okay. Round 2, if you make it through round 1, is when they send in the initial inquiry, right? They fill out a contact form, send it in to you. The key to elimination round 2 is how fast you're responding. Are you answering their questions? Are you sending video, and are you creating separation from everybody else? Because chances are they're not just sending you an inquiry. That inquiry is probably going to 2, 3, maybe a half a dozen other dealerships. And, when the pandemic hit, I did some mystery shopping with a ton of dealerships with internet leads. And it was amazing how many of the emails I got back were exactly the same from every dealership. I could tell what CRM they were using based on the template, based on the emails that came back. If they had, we have VIN Solutions, I could tell if they were a VIN Solutions dealer because it was basically the same thing. If they were dealer stock, I could tell it was the same template. And even their hours weren't even changed. It still would say they were open from 8 to 9. Well, no, you're not. You're closed because it's a pandemic. But none of it was personal. So I think elimination round 2 is all about being fast, being personalized, having video, and creating that engagement and creating that separation. If you make it through elimination round 2 to elimination round 3, that's once we start our conversation. Okay, that's once we have our engagement going. Okay, how are we keeping the conversation going? Can we communicate with that customer how they want to communicate? Right? Do they want to communicate by phone? Do they want to come into the dealership so we need to set an appointment? Are they texting people? Are they maybe Zoom and I do live video with them? Maybe they're direct messaging on social media. I need to be better at communicating now than ever as a salesperson because there's so many different forms that people want to communicate through. But I need to be really good there. And elimination round 4 is once they take delivery, right? That's still, or show up at the dealership. Elimination round 4 has always been there, right? That's the face-to-face. That's once you're closing them and selling the car. But I think we need to look at the digital inquiry, the internet leads in the elimination setting. Elimination round 1, they visit your website. Elimination round 2 is how fast, efficient are you responding and is it personalized? Elimination round 3 is once you do, how effective are you at communicating digitally? Elimination round 4 is your negotiation and delivery, whether it's a home delivery or in dealership. So they all tie together. So people are people, and they still have to go through a buying process.
It's a great answer. Let me just make sure to underscore what I think is the most important part. The sales quadrant technique is pretty much the same whether you're communicating offline or online, just a different tools, just a different channel. Yeah. And the most important parts of this communication is stand out, be different, and be fast and be personalized. So these, plus everything else that you said, but these are the most important parts that can be involved in online communication with the customer. Tim, let me go back to the next question. I want to go back to what you said about the competitiveness and wanting to be number one. Wanting to be number one assumes that you may have a goal or a target or something. How important in car business for salespeople, for managers, for anybody in car business is to set the right goals and targets, achievable goals and targets, not too low, not too high. Is this an important part of the trying to be number one?
I think, well, if you shoot at nothing, you'll hit nothing every time with amazing accuracy, right? So first of all, you got to have goals, right? And I don't think goals, setting goals in the dealership, I don't think most of us set goals that are too high and we miss them. I think so often we set goals that are too low and we hit them. And it becomes a culture of complacency, right? It's shoot for the stars, worst case scenario, you hit the moon. But it's understanding, how do I set goals, right? How do I mechanically set them? And I think it's looking at, you have some different areas, right? Because we've got, in the dealership, we got controllables and we have uncontrollables, right? Controllables are making phone calls, doing social posts, sending out texts, videos, email blasts, right? Those are controllables. Going back to service and prospecting with customers, even snail mail. Those are all controllables. Unfortunately, we focus on a lot of uncontrollables, right? Uncontrollables are internet leads coming in. Well, I don't control how many leads I get coming in. I can stare at the internet all day long and it doesn't mean the lead's going to come in, right? Incoming sales calls, that's uncontrollable. I can stare at a phone all day long. It's not going to ring. Fresh ups, that's uncontrollable. I can't control when they're coming in and when they're not coming in, right? But so often we focus on uncontrollables, things that we have nothing to do with versus the controllables. So it comes down to breaking down, I think, in two areas. We got to have our result goals and our activity goals, right? Result goals, how many I want to sell, how much money I want to make, how many. Basically, it's what happens at the end of the month, right? You sell 22 cars and you made $7,200, whatever the number is, right? That's what we spend a lot of time looking at, the final score. Well, the final score is just a series of plays that happen to it and a series of activities that led up to it. We get so caught up on it. I'm a believer that I want to look back at last year, same quarter, and I want to compare that to this year, this quarter. Okay, so if it's last year, quarter, what are we in? Quarter 3 right now. So July, August, September. What did we do last July, August, September? And I want to look at what's going on right now in the market, and then I want to determine what percentage of increase I want over that. So for easy math, if I sold, just say 10 cars, and I want a 20% increase, that means I got to sell 12 cars is my result goal this month for units. If I made $3,000, that means I want to make $3,600 this month. And if I wanted to do that, if I sold 10, 10, and 10, 10 in July, 10 in August, 10 in September, that means I want 20% increase. I'm going to sell 12, 12, 12. So 36 cars in quarter 3. And I want to make $3,600 each month. So what is that? $10,800, right? Just run through a bunch of numbers. So now I have real numbers. Now the key is looking at what are those activities. So how many calls per day do I need to make? How many emails do I need to send out each day? How many videos do I need to text and email each day? How many text blasts am I going to do to my database every day? How many social posts do I need to put up each day to generate leads, right? Those activities are what's going to give you the results. It's not that you say, I want to get in shape. Well, you don't just get in shape. What do you have to do to get in shape, right? You got to have benchmarks all along the way. And, I know you're working on the playbook, the sales playbook and the coach's playbook. Look, goal setting isn't something that most of us were ever taught. I don't know about your schools. Our schools don't teach people how to set goals. Most of our schools teach people how to be average. And it's not about setting goals, and it's not about having plans. And I think the hard part is having real goals with a real written plan on how you're going to get there. And that's why I put the sales playbooks together and the coach's playbook, because it's not common knowledge. I think everybody has good intentions in sales. I think it's the step-by-step process. And the guidance that is missing with most people, right? We always say, you need to go set goals. Okay, well, how do I do it? What's the template? What exactly am I setting goals for every day? And how do I make sure that I'm staying on track throughout the course of the month? You know, I always say that salespeople don't have bad months. Salespeople have bad hours. Those bad hours turn into bad days. Bad days lead to bad weeks, and bad weeks become bad months. But it's because of the downtime, not knowing what I'm doing within my time, not having the activities, and being guided. And as a manager, I want my guys to have those activities. I want them to have that plan, because now I have something that I can manage. Now I have something that I can coach them with to know if they're on track or off a track. But I think what's really important for, I guess, us as leaders and as salespeople is we need wins, man. Humans, we got to have wins. You got to have victories. You got to know you're accomplishing something. And without having goals with benchmarks, how do you know if you're accomplishing something or not? Right? Everybody's not going to be number one salesperson in the store and get the plaque or the trophy or the belt because they were number one. But everybody can have wins, and winning and losing are both habits. And I can develop winners in my store, and I can develop losers in my store. And if I always set goals that are too high and you never hit them, all I'm teaching you to do is lose all the time. And that creates that culture, and we dumb down the value of goal setting. If I set goals that are too low, then I'm creating that culture of complacency. So it's making sure they're realistic, they're achievable, but the plan has to go with it, right? It's kind of like when you want to drive somewhere. In the old days, we had a map. You had to pull out the map, figure out where you were driving. It was 1 inch equaled 50 miles or whatever. Now we just plug it into our GPSs and it tells us where to go. Tells us you got road hazards, it redirects you. That's not how goal setting works, though. You don't have an app saying there's a pandemic coming, so you better start preparing. There's going to be a chip shortage, so we're not going to have inventory, so you better start preparing. No, you have to be able to adapt and adjust. And that's why having goals with real plans in specific areas is so critical, man. In sales, any production-based business, you got to have them.
So the goals should be realistic, should not be too low, should not be too high. Most importantly, they should be based on the real numbers, not just taken out of the air. And once those goals are set, and this information on which they're based is used to calculate your goals or whatever, your daily work structure should go along with it. I actually like the phrase. I never heard that before. Schools teach us to be average. That's very interesting. And in sales, and probably in any work, to be a leader, you have to get out of that circle of average and try to become a leader. And it's up to you to do that.
I talk about the success quadrant. Everything's quadrants with me, but the success quadrant it comes down to number one, having a vision, right? Big picture, perfect world, 5 years, 10 years from now, what's your life look like, right? You got to have big. Bigger you dream, the more you achieve. I said it before. It's not that most people dream too big and miss it. It's most of us dream too small and hit it, right? It's most of us exist. You look around. Go walk down the streets and look around. How many people are thriving? How many people are existing? Right? We live the first 20 years of our lives having huge dreams, wanting to do everything. We're going to tackle the world. We're going to change everything. And then we spend the next 60 years of our life just existing. Same routine every day, not dreaming, not doing anything. So it's having big vision. It's being the Elon Musk, man. It's, being Bezos or he's getting ready to go up to space too, just like what's the Virgin Atlantic guy just went up there. That's dreaming big. Yeah, Richard Branson. It's dreaming big, man. You got to dream big. Bigger you dream, the more you achieve, and you got to go for it. Doesn't mean it's real, but you got to dream big. Then once you dream big, now you got to start narrowing it down. And quadrant 2 is setting goals, right? Having long-term goals, medium-term goals, and short-term goals. Okay, once you have those goals set, quadrant 3 is then the plan, having a written plan. So how am I going to hit my short, medium, and long-term goals? Right? Because you don't have a plan for your vision, but you put plans together for your goals. Quadrant 4 then is reward yourself. Right? You got to have a reward. No matter what it is, you got to do something. You got to. Sometimes you're the only one's going to pat yourself on the back. What is that? What's that reward if you're going to hit that goal? It's got to be realistic. I mean, if you go from selling 12 cars to 15 cars, don't go out and buy the Ferrari yet. But, maybe it's, if you can sell 250 cars this year, you're going to buy yourself a Rolex. I don't know, something. No, it doesn't matter how big or small it is. Maybe you're going to take the family on a vacation if you do X number of units or income, right? But there's got to be a reward. So really, as I talk about success quadrant, it's vision, goals, planning, and rewards. And when you look at it that way, it's easier to break it down. But that reward gives you the burning desire along with the vision.
All this, it's excellent how you put it, but this requires, sometimes you come to the dealership, you get this problem, you get that problem, you get an irate customer. You know how that works. The time, we're always short on time. Is there a secret that you can tell us? How do you manage your time? How do you get enough time to do everything, to accomplish all those things that you just said? What to do with time?
First of all, time management's a lie. You don't manage time. You manage activities within your time. Okay, you can go to time.com and you can't buy more back. Right? Some people get a day's worth of use out of a week. Other people get a week's worth of use out of a day. Okay, it comes down to the activities and prioritizing what they're going to do every day. And I'm a believer that your first hour to hour and a half in the dealership every day is the most important of any time in the day for you. As a professional salesperson, as a manager, when you get there first thing in the morning, that's where you get organized. That's where you answer your emails. That's where you plan your day. That's where you're making your calls. That's where you're doing your training. That's when managers are doing the one-on-ones. If you don't make the time to do it right, when will you find the time to do it over? Never. And those critical tasks that need to be done, that first hour and a half is where you get it done. And man, some of the best guys I know, Brandon, one guy sells 35 to 45 cars a month, and man, he'll be there 7 a.m. He gets more done from 7 to 10 than most guys get done in an entire week because he's very structured. Hey, you don't just come in and say, I'm going to have a good day. We all have good intentions that we're going to have a good day and we're going to be busy. You have to come in and be focused and do it. The best of the best that I've ever been around are very regimented. They're very structured in what their day looks like. If you ask them, what do you typically do at 8 a.m. on a weekday? They'll tell you what they're typically doing. Doesn't mean they always are, but that's what their plan is. Mike Tyson famously said that everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. All right. Well, in the dealership, we get punched in the face. But if you don't have the plan, you can't get back on track. If anybody's an MMA fan, I love watching MMA. Well, you're going to get punched in the face. You're going to be on the ground. Are you prepared to get into a full guard so you can get your wits back? Well, that's going to happen. You're going to have a customer come in right in the middle of the time that you were going to be doing your follow-up calls. Are you prepared to get back on track once you're not with that customer? And remember I said before, you got to have a short memory. Look, there's going to be days where you go home at the end of the day and you felt like you were there for 100 hours and you got nothing done, right? Every one of us have had those days. Have you? Where you went to work, you had good intentions, but you were there all day long. No customers came in. You think the road's blocked off at each end. And you work 12 hours, you go home at the end of the day, didn't sell anything, didn't make any money. How do you feel at the end of that day? You're exhausted, right? You're exhausted from doing what? Nothing. But then you have those other kind of days where you had your plan, you executed that plan, maybe you sold a couple cars, you go home at the end of that day, man, you got more energy than you know what to do with, because activity breeds activity, action breeds action. And the more you do, the more motivated you are to focus on those things. I always say, don't wait till you're motivated to do these things. Just do them, and then you get motivated. Motivation is a byproduct of doing the things it takes to be motivated. So it's number one, you got to have your plan. It's got to be in writing. That's the playbook, the coach's playbook and the sales playbook. It lays out their daily to-dos, what needs to be done every day. It's a checklist. Just like a pilot, before they get on that airplane, they walk that plane. Even if they just landed that plane, they get out and they do an inspection. They walk around, paper, check it off. You check it off. And you're not going to hit everything every day. Like my biggest challenge is I put too many things on my list every day of what I need to do. That's my downside, because it would take me, you, Mike, and a couple other people to get all those things done in one day. And the worst part about it is if I don't get through a good part of that list, I feel like I didn't accomplish enough that day. So it can't be overloaded. You're not going to hit every one of them every day, but you got to have a plan. You got to know what you're going to do. And I think the hard part in the dealership is most of us are retail and not detail, right? We're retail, not detail. We're dogs, man, not cats. And sometimes we don't want the retail stuff. I just want to sell a car, man. I'm not here to count stuff. I'm not here to keep stats. Yeah, that's what makes you better. You just have to do it and just start planning, because we don't plan to fail. We just fail to plan.
It's very interesting. Let me just make sure I got that written down right. The most important thing is the plan. Within this plan, activities, priorities, and you put an extra importance on the first hour, hour and a half, which is when you put things together, put your mind together, and plan the rest of your day. So these are the important things to not manage the time, because we can't do it, but to manage activities around the time that we have. Let me ask you a question. You work with different dealerships with different approaches. Some sell more, some sell less, some sell, premium cars, some sell entry-level cars. And I'm sure they have different motivation plan for salespeople. What do you consider a good motivation plan, the salary plan for the salespeople, whether it's commission or flat and whatever? And it would be very interesting for us to know, how much do good salespeople make in the United States?
Good salespeople are in six figures. Is 100,000+. It's considered good. Right now we're in a unique time. These guys are making insane amount of money because inventory's down, so they're making more money than they ever have on cars right now. It's for the first time in my 32 years in the car business, 31 years. Yeah, 31. I'm not going to go to 32 yet. We have an advantage over the customers, because if that customer doesn't want to pay a price, then that's fine. We got somebody that's coming in 30 minutes from now, it's going to buy that truck at that same price, and you can't find one anywhere else. It's unique. It's not going to happen. But I think the most important thing when it comes to pay plans, compensation plans, is I always tell dealers that there is no perfect pay plan. Okay. What I will say though is, if you want to have a better one, is it's got to align with your dealership goals. So if you just want volume and not interested in making money, then pay people on volume and they won't hold any gross. Okay. So, I know dealers that pay only on volume and they don't pay them on gross, and then they bitch and moan that their gross sucks. Well, no kidding, because your salespeople they're not rewarded for holding gross. Other guys just pay on gross and the volume bonuses aren't there, and they complain that the guys are making a lot of money and they're not selling very many cars. So I think it's a combination, volume and gross. But here's what we got to look at. We got to separate our pay plans from our bonus plans. All right. If you really want to have the best compensation plan, separate pay plans from bonus plans. Pay plans pay someone for doing their job. All right. So whether it's you're paying them a draw against commission, whether you're paying them a salary plus commission, it's a pay plan. If you're paying them $500 a week plus 20% commission, whatever it is, that's their pay plan. Everybody's on the pay plan. The bonus plan or rewards plan is what pays them for going above and beyond their job. So an example would be you're on the pay plan if you sell up to 10 cars a month. Okay, once you're over 10, when you get to level 2, which we call it, which is in the coach's playbook, then you get a higher percentage, right? It goes back to $50 a car versus $25 a car, and it goes from 10% commission of the total gross to 12% commission. When you move to level 3, now you get 15% commission, $75 a car. So it's based on production. Everybody's not created equal in sales. I said that before. And we need to start overpaying our top people and underpaying our bottom people. Too often, our bottom people make too much money in the car business because our pay plans are very socialistic, very across the board the same, because we don't want to hurt the feelings of the bottom guy, right? I want to be overpaying my top people. I'm putting golden handcuffs on my top people so they can't afford to leave. I don't want my top salesperson to want to be a manager. I want them to be making so much money and be so successful selling that I don't want to have to replace them. It's, obviously I'm a sports fan. They're not going to announce tomorrow that Tom Brady, you know who Tom Brady is? Quarterback they're not going to announce tomorrow. Yeah. He's not going to be the quarterback next year for Tampa Bay. He's going to be the head coach. They would never do that. Why the hell would they make him a head coach when he's a player on the field? Because they don't want to lose the production. I want to be able to make it where my salespeople don't want to become management. Some of them will, but I want to take care of the top people. So it's based on levels. How you did last quarter determines what level you're in this quarter, right? How many salespeople have long-term thinking in the car business? How many of them are thinking past this month? Very few. So, but what if your compensation, your bonuses, basically, not your pay plan, but your bonus plan, your rewards plan, if it was based off last quarter? So if last quarter you sold 48 cars last quarter, that puts you in level 3. So now third quarter, you're getting paid based on your production in the second quarter. So now if I kick back in the second quarter, now I'm going to suffer in the third quarter. So what it causes is it gives long-term thinking to your people. At least it gets them thinking 60, 90, 120 days out. But I think the number one thing I want you guys remembering when it comes to your compensation plan, because that's what I like to think of it as, is separate your pay plan from your bonus and rewards plan. 2 different monsters. All right. And sometimes my bonus and rewards plan could be more time off. It could be an assistant that we supply them, right? It could be a demo. There's a lot of things that aren't necessarily just monetary that is part of the rewards plan that we have for our top people. But I have to give them something to want to strive for, right? I think if you ask most salespeople, do you want to get to the next level? I think most of them will say yes. I just don't think most of them can identify what that next level necessarily is. And you'll see in the coach's playbook, it's broken down to levels, level 1, 2, 3, 4, the levels of excellence. And it's identified, and every store is a little different on what the volume is, right? We got higher volume, lower volume stores, but it's identified that. So it's clear targets for me as a salesperson.
It's very interesting answer, actually. One thing I want to underscore, this is the second time now during our interview that you mentioned sort of, you went in the same area, the socialistic pay plan that goes hand in hand with the schools that teach us to be average, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right. So the pay plans should match the dealership goals. That's the important thing that I heard. One of the important things that I heard, that if you want the volume, you pay for the volume. If you want the gross, you pay for the gross. Now, there's one thing that I sort of got out of your answer, which is a little bit, I shouldn't say strange, but I want you to give me a little bit more information on that. Right now, there is more and more millennials working in the car dealerships. I think, if I'm not mistaken, about 60% of the employees are millennials, and the millennials represent the biggest pool of potential dealership employees. And for millennials, at least they claim that the career opportunities are important for them. However, you just mentioned that if you have a great salesperson, you want to keep him as a salesperson. So how does that play along with the career opportunities within the dealership? And do you actually even think that this is important for the employees of the car dealership to see their workplace as the long-term career path to the career?
Yes. Right. That's the simple answer. Yes. I think number one, I don't like the term millennials. I don't like segmenting people out. I hear all the time, well, millennials are lazy, they're complacent, they're not driven by money. Okay, yes, part of that is true. The other part I'll say is 31 years ago when I started in the car business, 31 in 1990, there was some lazy ass 50-year-olds. They were 50 then. They were lazy. They weren't driven by money. They weren't motivated. They were complacent, and they were selling cars then. The same stuff we bitch about with millennials today, I saw it 31 years ago when I got in a car business. So, and there's some badass millennials out there. There's Navy SEALs, unbelievable athletes. There's some badass millennials. So number one, we have to make sure that we don't use the millennial thing as an excuse not to motivate our people, not to train, not to do the right things. Okay, number one, I don't manage generations. I manage people. So I'm looking at the person. So the question is a career path important? Hell yes. I think a career path is important for a millennial. I think it's important for a 22-year-old, whatever the hell they're calling that generation. At any generation, I want a career path. The number one recruiter for years, I don't know if they still are, but for years was Enterprise Car Rental in the US. And they would go around all the universities and they would recruit all these college kids to come out. And the reason that they hired so many was they had a very clear path to management. You're going to start out at working in the basement of an Enterprise rental in the airport with a shirt and tie on and a suit. You're going to be shaking hands and loading suitcases for customers. And then you're going to move up and you're going to be an assistant manager. Then pretty soon you're going to be a branch manager of your own enterprise. And they had a very clear career path for them. I think in our retail side, it's a little different, but I think that we should have two separate career paths when we hire people. We should have a professional salesperson career path, and here's what it looks like. And here's the end result. Here's where you're going to be. If you do this, and this, you're going to be making 20 grand a month, selling 30 cars a month, and you're going to have flexible schedules and assistants. And this is what it's going to look like. If you want to go up the management career path, you're going to have to do this, and this. This is what it's going to look like. You want to be management, you're going to put in twice the hours. You're going to have half the pay of your top salespeople, and you're going to have a lot more responsibilities. But this is what it looks like. Because to me, management's not a better job. It's a different job. I think it appears to be a better job because most managers they're managers. They're not leaders. They're not coaches. They sit there and wait for deals to come to them. And they're not on the floor active with their people. They're not doing the one-on-ones, not doing the training. So I think a lot of people from the outside looking in see management as an easier job because it looks easier. If you're doing it right, it's not easier. It's different. It's a different skill set. Sometimes your top salespeople are terrible managers. Being a great player and a great leader have nothing to do with each other. So it's, every one of us has probably promoted that salesperson that was pissing and moaning to become a manager. We promoted them to management and they failed at management because nobody would follow them. They weren't a leader. They didn't sacrifice the good of them for the good of their team. And they ended up costing the chemistry of our team, and they cost money, and then they end up leaving. And we lost a good salesperson because we put them in management and we knew they weren't going to be a good manager. Hell, I think sometimes you're better off let them quit. Tell them they can always come back for sales. If you got another store wants to hire you as a manager, go do that. But we always have an open door for you to come back and work the floor again as a salesperson. If you just don't think they'll be great. Oh, look at Wayne Gretzky. Look at Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson. Those best of the best. Terrible coaches, terrible managers. Why? Because they're two different skill sets, right? They were the first ones there, last ones to leave. They don't understand why everybody doesn't want to do that and put that time in. So circling back, yes, I think part of our hiring process needs to be, here's your management track. Here's your sales professional track. Here's what it's going to look like if you go management. Here's what it's going to look like if you go sales. Very structured, what the time frame is, and let them know that at any point we may adapt and adjust. You may think you want to be a manager, but all of a sudden you start making a bunch of money. You're like, hell, I'm not going into management. I'm going to keep selling cars. I want the flexibility. So it's lose generations, look at people, and have very clear career paths.
I like how you said that you don't like segmenting people, that you look at the person, you don't look at the segment or however they are sort of labeled. Interesting. Now, let me ask you this question. It's probably the most important question of the interview. You just talked about the leadership of promoting the salespeople in sometimes unsuccessful managers. If you were to create a perfect leadership department in a car dealership, the perfect one, the ideal one, the Tim Kintz leadership department, give me 3 traits of the managers that would work there that would fit into that description.
Fun, high energy, and servants, meaning they want to give back, right? We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have some energy, and we're going to be there for the good of our people. Zig Ziglar said, you can get everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want out of life. That's what my leaders and managers' mindset needs to be. You're only as good as your players. And they need to understand that they're there for one thing, to make their players good. Your team is as good as they're going to get on their own. And if they're averaging 8 cars a month, that means you're an 8-car manager. If they're averaging 18 cars a month, you're an 18-car manager. Your team is a direct reflection of the players. In sports, if the team fails, who do they get rid of? The players or the coaches? Coaches are gone. Who do we blame and get rid of when things aren't going good? The players. So I guess good thing we're not in sports. But that needs to be the whole mindset. When people are having fun and successful, and we got good, friendly competition, and we're lifting each other up, man, it's easy. Selling cars is a piece of cake. We overthink it. I think it's too much of a grind sometimes. We got to have more fun.
That's the most unexpected answer I got out of this entire interview. I thought you were going to be going into like, well, you got to spend 3 hours a day with them one-on-ones, this, and the answer.
That's part of it, though. But that's part of it, right? It's big picture. If your mindset isn't to have fun, have a lot of energy, let's keep moving around all the time, and that I'm only as good as my people. If you don't have that mindset, then doing your 30-minute training every morning and doing your manager meeting and doing your one-on-ones, those are never going to happen. Right. So it's begin with the end in mind. Right. So what first things first, what am I looking for in that person that's going to be able to carry the culture forward that we want? And then we can put it. Remember, I said, get the right people on the bus, wrong people off the bus, then get the right people in the right seat, then figure out where that bus is going.
Fun, high energy, and servant. In the meaning that you are there for your team. You are there to take the credit for their success. They take credit for this, but the blame for their failures.
Yeah. When things go bad, you take the bullet, and when things go good, they get all the credit.
And you know what? You are so full of those great phrases. I don't know if you come up with them yourself or you find them somewhere. Begin with the end in mind. That's awesome.
Yep, Stephen Covey. That's Stephen Covey. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Begin with the end in
Second
mind.
habit of highly effective people is they begin with the end in mind. What does the end result look like? And then I back up and go to first things first. But I don't start out with step one. I figure out what does it look like in a perfect world, and then I back up from there.
This is awesome. Tim, this was a great interview, and there's a lot of actionable information that I think will be very useful for our listeners, and I want to thank you on behalf of Russian Association of Auto Dealers, Russian automotive community, and on behalf of myself. Thank you very much for this interview and for your time.
It's an honor every time, and I can't wait to get over there and hang out with you guys.
Thank you, Tim.